The Air Jordan 29, the weaving process itself, how do you get to a method like that?
It was one of those things where we'd seen a lot of tests on a new process, and it had never been done before, but what it offered us was the ability to build the lightest and best fitting product out of the box. And that gave us an opportunity to really explore how minimal we could actually get a product. And it really came out really pretty well, very well. I always say the favorite one is always the next one, because you never know what is coming. But that's the first one, so it might be my past favorite one.
We were excited to be working, by the way, with the greatest basketball player of all time, and it was just we were just taking it one day at a time. So, and this would have been a typical presentation back in those years, those earlier years. We got to this point where we didn't have to give Michael presentations because he knew us so well, and we could just, basically just talk in a conversational way. But here I was trying to do a fancy one. It's an honest statement to say that Michael Jordan's the greatest basketball player I've ever seen, but he's also the greatest athlete to work with I've ever been with. When we begin the design process, you can think about basketball and you can think about, performance features on any basketball shoe and kind of go down the list and check the boxes. But really what becomes more and more obvious when you're working with Michael is that you get inspired. And you get inspired by his personality, his of course, the grace of his game and not just the technical side, how smart he is. And he's still that way today. And we're like, so again, it's just an honor. Well, Visible Air was something that I had worked on with the Air Max 1, and it took a lot of people to sort of make that happen. And I just felt it was a natural kind of progression to try and get it into a basketball shoe. And I think it was just an opportunity at the time. And they were roughly, the Air Max was just a little bit before the Air Jordan. That was, just sort of, I guess you could say it was just logical. The next thing, though, was to actually sit down with Michael, and I had a stack of leather, different kinds of leather. And those leathers were blazoned with different textures and different colors, and one was the elephant print, and it was in the stack. And Michael and I were going through the stack, and we both just stopped when we saw it. And I don't know, it was like one of those things where he didn't have to say anything. We just both said, wow. We're going to use this. And no one had ever thought, I think, of using a kind of a fashion or a faux leather like that on a basketball shoe.
You brought the water out. Very smart man. Very, very smart man.
Very smart. Yeah, my biggest memory and the best memory was in '98 when I came with the Chicago Bulls. We played in the McDonald's Open. And it was the first time I got the chance to where my son flew with the team, and my other son came with his mom, and they got the chance to see me play here in Europe, and we went to the Eiffel Tower. We did all kinds of things. So it was like a family vacation. The Dream Team was totally different. That was it was a whole different attitude. It was a different exposure for the game. And most of the excitement came from just hanging around the other 11 guys. But in terms of playing, '98 was probably the best time I had playing in Europe.
What do you think about when you look around European basketball now, the state of the game here?
It's grown tremendously. I think you got more European players playing in the NBA. Because of the Dream Team, I think the Europeans see it as a motivation to go play in the NBA, and you have some successes. You got a lot of guys who went to the NBA and become very successful and brought back that entertainment and that hype to Europe, to where now more people want to go. And I think it's good for the game of basketball, and I think from a global aspect, I think it's good. It's probably the best weather I've seen since my time of coming to Paris, but I've never had the opportunity to spend a lot of time here, which I kind of regret, but I'm glad I got the opportunity to come back. And so far, the fans and all the support that we've received has been very positive, and I'm happy to be back. I think it's a relationship that I've built with the consumer that have taken the passion that I play the game with, the authenticity of how we create the product based on the input that we get back from the consumer and pass over generation after generation after generation. I mean, as you said, there's a lot of people that, from a basketball sense, and a lot of these people never saw me play the game of basketball.
No, the young
which
ones.
tells us that we have done a good job in making sure that message is passed on to their fathers, to the grandparents, to the where it's now going to their kids. And I think that, to me, is much more gratifying over the 30 years than anything I've ever done within the game of basketball. It's been a great marriage because these guys are very creative, and I think they relied upon me giving them feedback to how the product works on the basketball court. And if they couldn't articulate that or build that into the product, I had no problems letting them know that, hey, look, this is not right. I want to be closer to the floor. I don't want to be on elevated, bottoms. I want to get close to the floor where I can cut and I can turn. I need a little bit of help here. I wanted 3/4 as opposed to a high top. These are things in different conversations that we had along the way, and it was a nip and tuck both ways. They give me things to think about, I would give them things to think about, and we always found a happy medium. It is a changed game from when I played, but that's how the game evolves, and the younger kids are playing, the more athletic kids are playing, the younger kids coming out of college are playing, and they're learning on the go, whereas when I played, it was much more mature players. They go to college for at least 3 years, 4 years, and then they come in a much more mature state. So, it's changed a little bit, but the love of the game of basketball and the entertainment of the game of basketball has not changed. I think we guessed right 30 years
we
ago.
were doing it first, but
And it just happened, we had a great collaboration between parties. Nike, Jordan relationship that was started in '85 has evolved 30 years later, and we would have never guessed 30 years later we would still be doing things like this. But the beauty of it is that we have a great working relationship. We have a great understanding, and when you have that type of relationship, you never know how long it's going to last. Anything's possible. And we've proven that 30 years later that anything's possible, that we've been able to connect with that consumer 30 years later and still going strong.